Welcome to another episode of Magnolia House. First episode where we have headphones on.
First headphone episode.
We're official now. So
Is it?
Followers can now start joining.
Yeah.
That's what we
It was
the whole
all
time.
practice.
Also, that's another new addition to the episode. We got the signs in the background. But yeah, it's I was telling you about that woman I was hanging out with that said she watched the podcast. Oh yeah, she was like, "What's it about?" And I was just like, "I don't fucking know, man." Like,
well,
I'm not good at like.
Yeah, I mean, but
yeah,
you have to have an idea of what it is.
Yes,
we always end up talking about similar things.
Yes, and I always tell people, and this is what I did tell her. I was also like kind of sick that night. They like forced me to come out. I went out for like an hour, but I just said we kind of just have fun and we talk about social issues and stuff like that, and then just like art stuff. Like
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I feel like it's art, creativity, like community, and
community. That's another one of the big things.
But also like we always get into like weird like thought experiment discussions.
But
well, how's it been with the? Are you officially done with smoking?
So yesterday was my first day not smoking. Oh, this is a great topic to talk about. My first day not smoking, and I was chilling here. I was like, okay, we're not going to smoke. Maybe have a little bit to drink. I was going to get some stuff at the store. I forgot, but then I saw the tequila here. And then as I'm wrapping up around like 10:30, my sister calls me to pick her up, and she's up north a bit more. So I pick her up, and she whips out a cigarette, and I'm like, sweet, sweet evil. So I smoked it.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. But it's like when I start going to the gym, I always give myself like 2 to 3 days of a grace period, because like getting started at the gym, I'm so bummed I went to El Salvador and just ruined that streak, because I was on a hot streak of like 2.5 weeks, like 5-6 days a week, just going all the time, and I was loving it and I felt good. And then El Salvador went, and now I have to start over, and I've tried, and it's like fuck. Yeah. But when I first start ramping up to start working out long term again, I know the first few days back are gonna be shit, and I'm gonna feel weak and a bit lazy and unorganized. And so that's the way I'm thinking about this with like the cigarettes thing. It's like quitting cold turkey, yes, but if I slip up like once or twice, I'm not gonna like, because when I was trying to quit weed, if I would slip up, I'd be like, no, I fucking ruined it, and then I'd be like, my brain would just be like, well, it's fucking ruined already. Let's
which is
go
not
back.
a good mindset.
And so that would stop me from making any further progress. So it's like, slip up yesterday, fine,
sure,
try not to let it happen again. But
I mean, honestly, that's how it was when I became vegetarian. Yeah, like I made the decision, and then there was like a week where I just kept forgetting that I'd made that decision. Yeah. So like there was like I worked at Dairy Queen at the time, and like I was like, oh fuck, I should have had a corn dog just now. Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to eat meat. I just had a corn dog. I wasn't even thinking about it.
To eat
no, I know, right? Dog. I know. No, but one of my last meals was at the Satellite Diner. Had their biscuits and gravy, and
pretty good.
I'd forgot.
Oh yeah. Well, it's in gravy. It's not really.
Well, and there's been a couple times, in the 12, 13 years that I've had meat, not like accidentally. Yeah. Usually it ends up being fucking people put bacon bits and stuff. Yeah. For like I don't know what reason. When they're like, oh, there's bacon, and I'm like, what?
Delicious.
Yeah, honestly, bacon's a little overrated to me.
Give me a break. Yeah. It's underrated.
It's underrated.
You could never give it enough credit for being as good as it is.
It's good. It's just, I think that the weird ass hype around bacon in like the early teens of the 2010s or whatever was just like
accept you're wrong.
Messed up. There was like bacon flavored vodka. There was like bacon air fresheners.
Bacon soap, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think even Ron Swanson would not like that.
It just becomes this weird like, I don't know, culture around this random ass thing.
What does he say in that episode? Does he say, give me all the eggs and bacon you have? I'm worried you misheard me.
I'm worried you heard, give me a lot of eggs and bacon. What I said was, give me all the eggs and bacon. Was that the night after they have snake juice? I can't remember.
No, the night after they have snake juice, he comes to the office with burgers, and he's like, all happy-go-lucky. He's like, eat this. It soaks up the fat, soaks up the alcohol. Yeah, it's.
I don't know. Wasn't there a Duncan Trussell quote you're talking about giving yourself that grace period and trying to extend that grace period out as long as you can, you know?
And that's something I always forget to do. But it's frustrating that my vices have such a hold on me. Like, a lot of my mental distress comes from just a few simple things. My eating habits are out of control. I can never just rein it in and eat like a normal human being. My smoking, which it's like you're just killing yourself slowly, maybe even quickly, with how much I fucking smoke. And then my not exercising on a regular basis. It's like those three things. I know my mental state and my overall health would be so much better. But like getting them all lined up and being consistent about it, so fucking hard. So hard. And like carrying the physical weight is like a daily reminder of like you're not all you could be. You know, like you're not doing your best work.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely in a slump right now. I like started running again recently, and then I've started biking to work now that I have a new job that I can bike to work. I don't have to take my car. But the past week or two have been just like, I don't know what it is, like a lot in my head. I've just like been trying to distract myself, and I've just been eating a lot more. Like I it's one of those things I notice I do sometimes. I'm just like, I feel like I always need to snack, and like I can't sit and not do anything. And usually the only thing to do is like eat. Yeah. Especially because now with Ira, like I'm not watching TV recreationally as much. Only when he's not around or sleeping or whatever. So I think you got to also be aware of like where you're at mentally, because that affects your how you are with your body too. And I think it's just, if you can figure out the patterns, then you know where you are in the pattern. Like it's like I have over the past 10 years started to recognize my like mental patterns, and when I'm low in them, I can be like, okay, I've been here before. Yeah. And like it's always different. Sometimes better, sometimes it's worse, sometimes it doesn't last as long, but it's like I know when this comes and how it comes and where it goes.
You know what I noticed today, though, when I was telling you how refreshing it was, because I dropped my car off the shop, so I had to just like walk to the plaza. And I was like, God, this is kind of fucking nice walking around. And then I actively noticed myself, I don't always have a lot of energy. A lot of the time I feel the word I've always known this word, but I looked up the definition just because I really wanted, but like malaise, like, and like sluggish and lethargic. And that's how I almost always feel. And as I was walking, I was like, I realized, wow, I feel really good and I have energy, and that's so rare. And then I also noticed, hey, I'm actually in a good mood too. And then my brain was like, but you have so many reasons to hate yourself. Ooh. You have so many reasons to be unhappy right now. Right. And it's like, you know, when people like say, you have so many things to be grateful for. And that's very true as well. But my brain, it's something that always happens when my consciousness recognizes that I'm currently happy. It says, hey, but look at all of this. Right. And then it's like, oh, shit. It's like the asshole that comes to the party just to fuck everyone over.
Yeah. Know? Well, what you made me think of just now, this analogy in my brain that you're kind of triggering, is that like, well, first of all, like those voices in your head, you know, they're a part of you in some way, of course. And it's clearly a part of you that has gotten a lot of clout within your mind. Yeah. But it makes me think of just like, if your personality, your consciousness, your brain, however you want to see it, is like this council
multiple
of people, right? Yeah, yeah. So there's the person in charge who's like, you know, their perspective is basically what you identify with. It can be the king or the whatever. They're the leader, right? And then this person that has like gotten clout is like the like evil, like
he's Jafar,
like Worm Tongue. Oh yeah, or like Jafar. You know,
who's Worm Tongue?
He's
Game of Thrones?
No, he's in Lord of the Rings, the King of Rohan.
Oh, the fucking
he works for Saruman.
Yeah, he drains the life out of the guy. Saruman does. Yeah, it's like you see he's like a shell of a person.
He's like gained clout and like he's been listened to enough, and he just has a little bit of power. And it's like, why are you fucking listening to this guy? Yeah. But he's there, and it's like nobody can help because the king is listening to him. Yeah, so it's like,
wow,
you're kind of just giving that guy energy.
That's a great analogy, but it's like in my mind, it's like there's validity to both parts.
Sure.
But it's like, for some reason in my mind, if it's like between the two, like be happy or hate yourself and everything about your life for any reason, it's like my brain's like, well, yeah, we got to go for this guy. It's like my brain will just not let me be happy. I don't know why. And I always wonder if it's like a fake it till you make it thing and like convincing yourself, but then that seems not right.
I think the whole fake it till you make it thing has gotten a bit too much traction in the like popular psychology. I feel like it's true in the way of like it's fake it till you make it in like, so let's say you recognize that, okay, I'm just listening to this voice too much. And you just say, what if I don't? What if I don't this time? Yeah. And you just kind of make a habit of not listening to it, not out of any like desire or like not out of any like motivation, but you're just like, I'm just going to try something different. And then you hope that habit, it concretes itself. And then all of a sudden you can switch, you can make a choice, out of motivation. And I think that's like, it's like
because it does seem like I don't have a choice.
It's like the power position stuff. It's like, put yourself in like a powerful, like stand upright, like before you do an interview, like just like hype yourself up to like feel more confident. And if you do that, like maybe it'll shift you mentally as well. Not that like that's the cure, but like that's a way to kind of maybe try and get around it. Yeah.
It makes me also think of the kid you were saying about his horoscope. And he was like, well, because of this, it says I'm this kind of person. And then you just lean into that. And that's who you become. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like if I'm always listening to that negative side of my brain, I am like, it's self-fulfilling.
Oh, yeah.
Being that person. Yeah. And it's like, how do you like, shut up for a minute. Right. I'm going to listen to you when necessary. Right. But how can I like not just have you screaming at me all the time? And,
Well, I mean, think about what brought you or just brought that to your attention as like that voice clearly doesn't like you being happy, walking around. Yeah. Like, so maybe if you just do that more, it's like the sleep thing. Someone said to me recently because of Ira, him and his sleep, because like good sleep begets good sleep. Yeah. It's like, if you're not sleeping well, like you're not going to just like sleep for 12 hours and be fine. It's like, you have to just like get in the routine. Yeah. And the more you sleep, the better you sleep. The more you sleep, the better you sleep. The more consistently you sleep. Yeah. It's just like again, that feedback loop. So it's like, if like going for a walk is like giving you energy, like even if you don't have the desire to, like maybe just try it out. And I forget how much you drive all the time. Yeah. And like, especially in Spokane, driving, like even I drive here a ton. And like I didn't really have a car in Seattle.
Isn't that the weirdest? You would think it would be the opposite. Like in a small city, you would think, I don't need to drive anywhere. It's so small.
I mean,
But in a big city, you walk so much. Yeah. And in a small city, it's like, I'm not fucking walking 6 blocks down the street to go to the store.
I mean, honestly, it makes sense to me because like everything in Seattle is set up. You have like a neighborhood you live in, so there's a lot of stuff in walking distance, and the public transportation's pretty good. And Spokane is just so sprawling. Yeah. And there's not even really like a hub of it. Like, it's not like, let's drive here and walk around. It's like you drive here and then, let's go to this place and you have to drive there. Yeah. But I
remember, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the quintessential, like, ridiculous thing is we have this upstairs neighbor that literally works. He works a block away.
And a half, like a block. Yeah.
Away from where we live. And he drives to work.
Why would you do that?
He drives to work a block.
No fucking sense.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think he's kind of it's a little ridiculous, but I just do it.
Have you talked to him?
I haven't talked to him about it. Clementine's talked to him about it. And it's just like,
she's talked to him about it?
Yeah, well, he brought it up. He was like, it's a block away, but I still drive to work. It's like, okay. It's like, that's like, we take Archie for a walk and past that place. You can go further. Yeah. For a walk.
I'm imagining him like, if he had a mailbox at the end of his block and he's like,
right? Like at a certain point, it takes more energy to get in the car. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. But I remember John and I talked about this. Like I would walk like sometimes 4 miles to get to work just because like it's beautiful in Seattle and just go. But over here, like when John lived at your dad's house, it's like, should we just walk downtown? We're like, fuck no, we're not walking downtown. Right. It's a fucking 15-minute walk.
Yeah. It's really close. Yeah.
It's so close. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't know when I discovered that downtown was so close to my dad's house. And it was just like, it's a weird thing. It's like, because mentally it feels far away. And I don't know why.
It's stupid
that
close.
Is. Like, so when I look at like, even from our place right now, downtown is like 2 miles, maybe, you know, and it's like 2 miles.
It's
like,
not
that's so easy,
you
know, but like, it's a walk.
But yeah, it was just an interesting thing as I was walking downtown. I was just like, that's very rare that I actively like, wow, I feel good. My body doesn't feel tired. Like my body feels exhausted a lot. Like and I think it's related to all those things I mentioned. My eating habits, I don't exercise, and I smoke. So it's like my body's like, fuck, bro, can you like help us out and not be such a piece of shit? Like, but I actively noticed, I was like, wow, I have a ton of energy. I'm in a great mood. And then it was like, everything is awful. And it's like, well, and so I was like, but I think I kind of subconsciously did just say, I'm not going to worry about that right now.
Right, yeah.
I'm just going to go about my business.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, again, it's not like it's not there, right?
Yeah.
You don't ignore it or push it or suppress
no.
it.
And that's the thing everybody says. Like, you suppress these things and you just come back full force.
Yeah.
So how do you actively, what's the word I'm thinking? Like, how do you actively like approach and acknowledge these things and have a communication, make progress in these aspects? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a
Is that embracing the shadow? Is that what that is?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I've never fully understood that concept. And it's like...
It's always... So, I mean, in the Myers-Briggs, right? So, like, he mapped out these psychological functions most humans... The way he observed people kind of just functioning in the way they think about stuff. Everybody has this inferior side of them. There's the inferior function, and then there's your shadow, which basically are functions that you don't.
Inferior doesn't mean inferior, does it? Does it just mean secondary? Like
It basically means that it's what you haven't practiced using.
Oh, okay.
The most.
Yeah.
But because you never really developed it, it's this like it's the fool.
Dead weight.
It's like the fool of your story, right?
Yeah.
And you can never raise the fool up to the level of like your dominant function. They can never come up to that point. You have to go down to them.
Oh,
you have to acknowledge. You have to kind of like the great needs to bow before the lower to like really give it give it its power and like give it some substance. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to like say what you should do to whatever. But
well, some people would say you're a bit of an
armchair philosopher. I was like, I've been thinking of other names for the never seen it stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, should we call it like pop art philosophy or pop art psychology? And I was like, maybe we should just call it armchair philosophy.
But I wonder, because if that name is not taken, that is perfect. But I feel like it's a common enough phrase.
Yeah.
Or no, the armchair philosophy.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, and again, it's like my whole thing is that I find those topics really interesting.
Yeah.
But I also feel like nobody can relate to them. They're just not very like, I can't have a conversation with other people, regular people living their, it's like it's too disconnected, which is why I prefer to talk about those themes within fiction, especially, or just in art, because it's like people can connect to art no matter how lofty the ideas are, because good art connects to people on a very like,
but I wonder if you could
level.
Pinpoint actual discussion topics in movies, because that would be a great medium to like play the clip and then like
totally
dive through.
Slavoj Žižek has this documentary film, whatever,
Pinocchio, Jordan Peterson.
But his is called what's it called? The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, where he basically maps out his like system or structure of ideology, but he uses basically like film to like portray it, and like random, like there's a scene of him in like a big dump, like they're like pushing trash around behind him, and he's talking about like the trash heap of ideas. Yeah, it's like a documentary type thing.
Okay, yeah.
He's like, he's just kind of explaining his view of ideology via these like
imagery and
popular imagery, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
But to talk about the whole shadow thing, which I would love to do and never seen it on this movie, the Babadook.
Oh,
Have you seen the Babadook?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Babadook is like, first of all, a great horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what makes it good, is that it's, even if you don't like delve into it,
terrifying.
It's a scary movie, and it's done really well, and the style is
great.
The
imagery just stays with you, and it's so fucking scary.
Yeah, it is. But it's also such a good analogy for like mental health, and then encountering like your dark side.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, and actively dealing with it.
Yeah, and in the end is like, horror movies really struggle to like bring it all to a close.
Yeah.
And I feel like the easiest way is always to leave it open, you know? And of course there's like that leave it open for a sequel, but I think it also, that feels true in a way because nothing is ever really resolved, right?
Yeah. Oh, and also another easy way is like, evil has been thwarted, the ghost is gone, like everything's better now.
Right.
But
yeah. Oh yeah.
Babadook doesn't do either of those.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting ending. I don't know how much we want to get into it if we do want to talk about it later, but she ends up basically nurturing it.
Yeah. Well, do we want to explain what the
premise of it is?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe you can explain a little bit the background.
Well, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I do know the idea of it, being that, what is it, a demon?
Yeah, it's like this. It's like this creature, kind of a man.
Is it in a storybook?
It comes in a storybook, and I don't know if it's like when you read the book, like it starts to come to life or something. Basically, the more attention the more you ignore it, the more power
prominent
it gets. Yeah. But in the movie, the kid's father has died, and the mother is very like disconnected and doesn't really listen to him anymore. And he's telling her that there's this monster, and she ignores it. Yeah. So it starts to get more and more power until they finally like confront it. Yeah. That's a very brief overview.
Yeah, and then in the end, they essentially just keep it in their basement.
They keep it in there, and they feed it, and it's just like.
What do you mean they feed it though? Do they literally feed it food?
Yeah, in the end, the end scene is like they're like gathering worms from the garden, and they go down to the basement, and then they give it worms, which is like kind of a really weird ending, just as the movie goes, but it's very interesting, and I think that's like the nugget of like, and I think honestly, the main character is the kid in the movie because he's the one that's like really encountering the beast, and that's such a great viewpoint.
I was going to say, what does that say about the way children deal with their issues versus adults?
Well, I think the whole analogy is that the mother is really the like source of the monster, and it's her demon. Like her husband died, and she won't confront the sadness about it, and she's become this monster to the kid. Yeah, because she won't confront it, And the only way she can really, like, he's dealing with her monster. She's the monster, basically. Even though in the movie, that's not the case. Like, there's actually a monster in the movie. It's not like that. That's why it's also just a really good horror movie, because the monster is very real. But, that's a really good one that I feel like maybe this was what makes me an armchair philosopher, is that I'm not trying to, like, be like, oh, like, this is what it all means, and this is how you encounter your shadow and bring yourself down. It's like, here's an artistic example that kind of tackles that. It feels very meaningful, and maybe you can watch it and get something from it, and maybe it speaks to you in a way that words never can, and like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because I'm not so good with words. So.
I throw balls far. You want someone good with words? Date a languager. So this is the book, There's No Such Thing as Dragons, which is essentially the same thing as Babadook. Oh, it's exactly the same.
Interesting.
So the dragon starts out as this little guy, right? And the dragon wagged its tail happily when Billy patted its head. Nice dragon. So I think that might be the ending or the beginning or something. So this is the boy saying, hey, look at this dragon. She's just completely unaware of it. Right. And then eventually the dragon gets so big that it runs away with the house. And that is like essentially a metaphor for like everything falling out from under you because you refuse to deal with your situation. And then, so in the end, they eventually acknowledge the dragon. And it becomes their pet. I don't know if this is the end.
Beginning
or end. But it becomes their pet. And it's like the Bob. It's exactly. It's literally exactly the Babadook.
Totally, completely.
And so that's one of the things Peterson.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah,
that'd be a good book for Ira.
Oh, honestly, that looks like a really good book that I'd like to get. Yeah,
But yeah, it's just like confronting your shadow or whatever it is, and developing, I guess, like a relationship that works, one that isn't overwhelming you. Right. which is like, I get overwhelmed at times.
It's like, there's always going to be a part of you, and this is kind of goes back to the personality things. There's a part of you whose very nature is to be needed or to be sad or to be, there's a part of you that there's no cheering it up. It's like in like the movie Inside Out. See, this is me fucking making references all the time. The movie Inside Out.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so the movie Inside Out. It
looks too good.
It's a Pixar movie. And I think it's a very good movie. It's obviously geared toward kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's like basically they separate out the brain into like joy, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger. That's like the 5 operations of that basically control the personality of the person. And the whole dilemma of the movie is that there's this part of them that's sad, the sadness one, and that nobody can figure out what sadness is supposed to do because you can't cheer them up. There's a part of you can't. It's
in the nature of that guy, character. He will never be cheered up.
So there's no point in like being like, what the fuck are you doing? Like we're all happy now.
Yeah.
Like there's just a part of you that's like that. So how do you deal with that sadness?
How do they deal with it in the movie?
In the movie, they bring it around to like sadness because it's a kid who's going through this big move in their life, and it feels like nobody's really paying attention to them, and like they just are mourning for their old life.
Yeah.
And like they keep trying to like, we're fine. Like, there are new, better things here, and we can love this, and we can be angry about that. But like what sadness does for the kid is that it brings people to them. Like people see sadness and like gravitate in a supportive way. Basically, sadness helps like tell other people that you need support.
Yeah.
So,
there's a function to it.
Yeah, there's a function to it. And I think, everybody is obviously different psychologically. Not everybody's the same. But like, and everybody deals, their dragon is something different, right? Yeah. So if there's a part of you can't fix because it's fundamentally just its nature to be that way, how do you incorporate that into who you are? And it's like owning it, right? It's like you don't fight against it, you like live with it, and like you're a good roommate to that thing.
Oh, that's a good way to put it, roommate. In terms of the sadness thing, I don't know if it was like Good Will Hunting or what, but somebody was saying right now my ego is in what is it, prone position? What is it when you're curled up and
well, prone is like laying down. I think
what is
fetal position?
Yeah, the guy said my ego's in the fetal position, and like everyone's ego is always in the fetal position. It's like, that's kind of a good point.
I mean, the whole ego thing, that's a thing about like,
I also don't really understand the ego.
I mean, I don't.
And
so many people use that word differently. But basically, I think in Western psychology, your ego is the part of ourselves we identify with. So it's like that's the main character of our story. Even though the ego is just one part of our mind, we think that's the part of our mind that is us. Right? So in terms of like the worm tongue person, the ego is the king. And then the worm tongue is like a different, maybe neurosis or something we see as like external, but also internal in a weird way. So And
then what is the id? Is that a?
So I mean, so Freud mapped out ego, superego, and the id. And the ego, I think, is the fully conscious part of yourself. It's the again like the part that feels in charge and like me.
How is that different from the ego? And what the fuck is a super?
That's the ego.
Oh, that's the ego.
That's the
ego.
I thought you were
that's
saying
the
ego.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the super ego is basically
Kanye
all the
West.
like. It's partially conscious, partially unconscious. To my understanding, again, I don't know. And Freud is like a very old, it's a very old way of looking at things. But it was very valuable because it was one of the first ways of looking at the mind. But it's basically the rules and structures and things we learn that basically temper ourselves. So like part of it's conscious, like the rules and the codes we live by. But a lot of it's unconscious too, the habits and things.
From development.
And just like things you've subconsciously learned to control yourself. And the id is I think maybe part of it's conscious too, entirely unconscious part of yourself. It's kind of like your subconscious. That's the part that speaks in your dreams. That's like when people typically think of the unconscious self, that's the id mostly.
Speaking of dreams, I hate it when people dive into it and explain their dreams, but I did have a very hyper realistic dream last night that I was told that I only had one day to live and that my heart was failing. And so the whole dream was me going around and saying goodbye to everybody. And I was like literally bawling in my dream. Like I approached my nephew and I was like, I'm never going to see you again. I'm not even going to exist anymore.
Oh my gosh.
And then the whole dream was me like panicking, like trying to find a replacement heart. Cause I was just like terrified. I was like, this is it. It's already, this is it. The game is over already. Like I was just so hyper aware of like, I'm not going to be here anymore. I'm not going to exist as of today. Like it was, I completely forgot about it now, but it was so realistic. And it's like, it made me think of like, imagine people do have to face this reality that like they're told like you have weeks to live or months to live.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
that,
how do you, it's one thing, you know, accepting that everybody dies and that your time will come. And for many of us, it just happens. Like my grandpa passed away in his sleep. And you know, that's one thing.
Or an accident or something.
Yeah.
You don't see coming.
Yeah. As long as it's not brutally painful and then you're like spending the last like 40 seconds in agonizing pain or 5 minutes. But to be told that, you know, like your days are numbered, you've got like 8 weeks to live. So fucking hell, man. I don't know. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if I'm strong enough to deal with that. But everybody has to be. Yeah, you have no choice.
That's
in
life.
It.
Again,
so,
it's like, and that's the thing is like, that's where like, you know, I've said to you before, some people say philosophy is how you learning how to die, basically.
Yeah.
And it's coming into you know, contention with your own mortality and stuff like that. Is that we all know that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like if I was just saying to you now, Tony, you only have maybe a couple decades left.
Yeah.
You maybe only have 50 years left. It doesn't matter. No matter what, you're going to die.
You know what I'm imagining it in the imagery I'm getting right now is like if there's a dude sitting right there with like a knife and he never does anything ever. Like he's just always there. He's always just chilling. But like it's such gradual movements that he's inching closer to us and we just never notice. And then by the time you're a certain age, he's like standing right there and you're just like, fuck, you're really close, dude.
Right.
Like you're really close with that knife. Like, and that's what I was saying. It's like, do you think people in their 70s or 80s are always just like, damn, the game is almost over. Like the party, it's almost time to leave.
Yeah.
It's like,
but again, you never know what it's going to be like to be a 70, 80 year old.
Yeah.
Because like I've heard stories of people who are just like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even dying right now, but I'm ready to go.
The reason I put so much focus on that is because it doesn't feel like I've lived a life yet. And I imagine if you've lived a good life by that age, you're like, I've done the things I need to do. But I personally feel like I haven't done anything in life that I want to do.
That's fucking crazy, dude. No, dude, you're like almost 30 years old.
I know.
And like I have only like really known you like for maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like lived with you for a minute and then like hung out with you, especially in the past year or so. And like, I've already done a ton of stuff with you. Like there's a lot of stuff has happened.
It's like, but see, you have a very, I'd say like if I were in the familial structure, that position that you're in right now, I would feel like, everything is in place. Now I can just enjoy things. Like now, like I've got my life mate, I've got children, and of course there will be hurdles and things need to overcome. But like the structure is finally there, and now I can enjoy life. Like I haven't been in a good relationship in a long time. I don't have kids. I don't have a career that I'd like that is fulfilling. So like all of those empty holes make it feel like there's nothing going on. And
so what do you feel like you've been doing?
Well, so like the first 7 years, up until like 15, my life was pretty traumatic. Like multiple divorces in my family, moving around, mental abuse, physical abuse. And that like really shaped my entire existence. Like it was, I developed this victim's mentality. Like I felt like, I don't know, but things were just shit for a long time.
And those are things, it's like, those are things you never escape from.
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah.
The trauma you experienced as a child is just who you are.
Yes.
And you have to be that person.
And at this point, it does feel like a dream. Like it wasn't even my life anymore. Yeah. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
But it was like that was the first at least 13 to 14 years of my life. Mm-hmm. And then the time after I got out of those situations, it was just like recovering from that for a good 5 or 6, 7 years or whatever. And then, you know, you become a more conscious person and you're like, what is my life going to be about? And then I have all these dreams of, you know, large, grandiose dreams of like what I want to do. And then you grow up a little bit and you realize, well, those things aren't exactly super likely, but there's a happy medium you can get to that will be fulfilling if you work hard and get there. And it feels like I'm at that point of starting that. It doesn't feel like I'm in it yet, but it feels like I've just begun the realistic, mature way of viewing your goals and your dreams in your life. So up until this point, it just felt like shallow. It felt like a lot of just problem solving for the first 15 to 20 years of your life.
Right. Or just learning how to be a person.
Yeah. And so, I think you're very lucky in life that you've, and I'm not saying like,
No.
But I think you're in a very lucky position that you found the person that you love. You have a child together. You have common goals for the future. That is so mentally like, if I were in that situation, it would put my mind at so much ease. Like it would put my mind at ease so much more. The future would look less just fucking like it would look less what's the word?
Nebulous?
Yeah, I guess that's a good word. Yeah.
Someone said that word to me once and I was like, that's a good word.
That is a good word.
I use that now.
But yeah, so I don't know. I don't feel like if I died today, it's like, that was shit, man. That was a shit run.
But it goes back to what we said, and I've talked to you before, the seize the day type thing. It's not that you live every day to its fullest. It's that wherever you are, you moved the flag as far as you could. Yeah. Right? And it's like, even if your far is not, it's not about comparing it to anybody else's. It's about where were you yesterday.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. For somebody who's not a Peterson fan, that's one of his number one rules in his book. Yeah, it's his one of his. It might even be the first rule.
I don't not like Jordan Peterson.
That is false.
I have a bias. I don't know. It's a subconscious bias against him. He's just not the kind of person I would hang out with.
Oh God, I would spend every single day of my life bugging him if I fucking could. He's got just a fucking infinite wealth of knowledge in that guy's mind. But one of his rules, it might even be the first rule, is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. And it's like, because then I think of like people like Chance the Rapper, and I'm like, oh my God, that dude is fucking maybe a year older than me or maybe my age, and he's like a fucking millionaire and like living his dreams. And it's like, okay, he also had quite a few advantages that you didn't have. A well-structured family life with stability and, all these things. And you could, and this is why I hate the word privilege. There's limitless privileges that each other has that I don't have, that you and I have that you don't have. Like that's why it's just nonsense to me. Even fucking.
But let's say this. So like you feel like you are finally at the stage where you're starting to create things in a positive way. Like it's like you just arrived at the starting line. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And there are people who were at the starting line when they were 15. Yeah. Like, or,
Dave Chappelle starting comedy at like 14, 15, 16 years old.
Sure. But I mean, even beyond, and again, like Dave Chappelle is he's a hardworking, passionate person. The thing that makes me upset about the whole like privilege thing, and I do believe like people have privilege, is
I just hate that word. I've come to hate that word.
Sure. Whatever. Maybe it's a meaningless word now. It's said too much. Whatever advantage, disadvantage people have in their life, there are people who have no passion, who coast through life and are considered successful. Yeah. Like who just do the stuff that like they were told.
Khloe Kardashian.
They were like, I mean, they have a weird like path, but I mean, just like, I just mean anybody who, went to school.
A lot of the people at prep.
who just like went to school because that's what happened, and their parents supported them and like taught them a way to interact with the world, and they went to college and then got a job, and they just were they were happy with their life enough, but they were just walking down that road, and that was where like I went to college because I was like, oh, if you just walk down this road, like you get there. And I was like, oh shit, like you don't get there. Not everybody gets there because like I have so much shit to deal with. Yeah. Like I never learned how to interact with the world in like a functional way. Yeah. Where it's like I kept running into walls and like defeating myself, Yeah. And again, like I don't even feel like I'm at that starting line.
Oh, really?
I feel like I have like seen how it can be and seen what the world considers normal, successful, and been like, I can be happy where I am.
Yeah. Like, so you have no intentions of getting to that starting line?
I don't know. It's like those people who live that happy, quote unquote, life, like they're just living the life that was laid out before them. Yeah. And there was a life laid out before me, and I pick which way I go, and I learned how to pick that way later in life, which is why I've made a lot of mistakes. Like going to college, I honestly consider a mistake now. Yeah. But again, like I'm happy where I am, so I acknowledge that as like a necessary thing to get to where I am. But if I did it again and didn't even know where it was going to go, I would not advise anybody to do that. If they were in my situation.
Another thing Peterson talks about.
Sure.
He was a Harvard professor, and he tells people don't go to college. Go to trade school or go after your passion.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then again, I don't think I disagree with Peter. Like as a person. Yeah. Again, like it's like when you showed me that Pinocchio one of his.
I got so much meeting out of that.
Right.
That
and maybe it connects to people in different ways. But like I have a very systematic way of thinking about things. Yeah. And I didn't feel any it was like he was almost like an interpreter, and he was like basically throwing out all these interpretations that each one isolated was like meaningful, but there was no structure to it all.
Oh, I don't think so. That's all about rescuing your father from the belly of the beast.
Right. But that's a great analogy. Again, like, and this is what like makes it a great story. Yeah. Right. That's why the story is so meaningful. Yeah. But like when it comes to like, what's your like worldview, what is your system, that's what I go to intellectuals to see is like, and it's just one way of seeing the world. It's like there's so many philosophers and thinkers out there, and they just say, what if we mapped the world this way, right? It's like it's constantly like that grid.
So you saying his mapping of his interpretation of Pinocchio didn't line up with what you think the structure of the actual story was?
No. I think that he has a lot of insights, and he has a way of seeing the world that is very Jordan Peterson and very intelligent and very informed.
Useful though?
I think, well,
I find it useful.
Sure,
so it must be to some people.
Yeah. It's just, again, it doesn't resonate with me. And whenever, I've been watching some of his videos, and it just feels like he's throwing out these meaningful nuggets. Yeah. These, like, sayings to live by. Yeah. And, like, there's no, like, how do I run with this? It's like I have to keep coming back to you. Huh. Like, I watched recently, the most recent one I watched was about how to get over social awkwardness or something like that. Huh. I don't know. He was just talking in front of his students, and he was like being like, this is how you should position yourself. This is how you think about, this is the beast in the room, and you need to like stare the beast in the eyes. And like that language, like it resonates, and like I get what he's saying. And if you think about it that way, it gives you a little bit of leverage on the situation. Yeah. But it doesn't help me it doesn't affect my world view at all. It doesn't affect how I see the world. Yeah, I guess.
But you don't view it as a useful tool that you could adapt into your life?
I think I could, except I think a lot of it's stuff I've already reflected on and either come to terms with or I don't know. It's like I would like to see where I do disagree with him. Yeah. And I think most of it is he does a lot of like cultural
his biblical stuff
now
was it was crazy because when I first came across him, it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I thought he was a fucking prick. I thought he was an idiot. I was like, this guy sucks.
Oh, really?
Because he was talking about like religion and the importance of it and the meaning behind it and cultural significance and all this stuff. And I'm like, me,
you got triggered.
Yeah, I was like, this guy's God. I was like, you're really trying to fucking bring back religion, bro? Like that shit.
Is bring it back.
Old news,
it never
bro.
went anywhere.
Fucking out the door in the garbage. But that is how I saw it. I was like, fucking religion, goodbye. And he brought it back for me. Like I don't believe in the truth of like the mystical aspects, like God came here, his son was sacrificed and all this stuff. But as in terms of the meaning behind the parables and all that stuff, and the validity in all the religions and the stories that and the message that they're trying to present, there is a great meaning in those stories.
I feel like if I had to guess, and I don't know this for a fact, if I had to guess, I would say Jordan Peterson isn't a religious person.
He says, and I might butcher the way he words it though. He says, and he got bugged a lot for saying, "Do you believe in God?" And he would never really. He didn't want to answer the question for, I think, possibly like political, like not political, but like he didn't want to sway anybody any other way just because of what he believes. It's kind of like how your teachers won't tell you who they voted for until after you get out of school. You know. But I think one day he finally did answer, and he says, "I don't believe in God in the sense that like, you know, God. But he says he thinks it's extremely important to live your life as if there is God, as if there is a God." And
what's the difference?
Well,
it's like Pascal's wager, which I find very suspect, but
no, not in the sense of like just in case. It's like, and I'm gonna butcher it. But it's essentially like as a way to keep yourself on a right path or a righteous path. Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily atheist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think he believes in
I don't think he's
God.
religious. Yeah.
And but he's very about religion. Like that's like Maps of Meaning is like a whole cultivation of all, you know.
Yeah.
And he finds great meaning in religion, all the religions.
Yeah, we should really do a proper Jordan Peterson discussion. I've been thinking a lot recently because of stuff I've been watching, and actually honestly listening to Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan, and just thinking about what it means to be white. Not to like get into it, but like I do feel like he has that like very Western mentality.
Rogan or Peterson?
Peterson. Well, both of them, to be honest. I think I've been thinking more about, it's kind of this idea of like understanding things without really engaging in things. Yeah. It's like this, it's this over analyzation of like the world.
But you know, something you said about Rogan, I think, and possibly Peterson, was that like you were saying like you don't necessarily find issue with the things they're saying all the time, and that Joe is just like being himself and expressing himself, but then that has, well, people will misinterpret that or whatever and find alternate. But the question I always had was like, what else could he do to counteract that? It's just being yourself, right? Like, you know, and I don't think he's telling anybody be like me or you suck. He's just saying,
no, I don't think that.
I think he's just saying this is what works for me, and I'm a very happy, fulfilled person.
I mean, here's a question.
So how do you counteract?
Well, here's a question. So we both have nephews, very young nephews, right? And my
nephew could beat up your nephew.
I definitely struggled with this, with especially my eldest nephew, who's like basically he's an adult now. Yeah. And it's like, what would you do?
Oh, he definitely couldn't beat up Patrick.
But what would you do if like your nephew looked up to you, like basically like, because you know they're younger than you, they're impressionable, right? Yeah. They would just copy anything you did. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And like obviously you live your life a certain way, I live my life a certain way, and like we have the reasons we live our life. Maybe it's not always responsible, but we deal with it, and we're both generally like healthy people, generally speaking. Would you do everything that you do in front of your nephew?
Oh, no.
Right.
No way.
Right? Yeah. Like, there's a difference between being who you are and being who you are to people that are taking stuff from you, you know, that are like really using you as a model. Yeah. And it's that private versus like public thing. And it's like that quote I told you by, I heard Bo Burnham say in an interview, is like, there's a lot of frustration in creators and people that are famous about the conversations going on in the culture. People are not happy about the way shit's going. And I've been hearing it a lot now that I'm listening to more comedians, is they always talk about they're being chastised for just doing their job, basically. And he's like, of course I'm having different conversations in private as I am in public. But like, that's kind of the nature of their position in the culture, right? And it's like, you have to own that position you have in the culture. And if you don't acknowledge that, then you're being a little disingenuous to your, because it's like.
But I think he has a lot of the uncomfortable conversations in public on the podcast.
But I'm saying like, I think you just have to be aware that you being authentically yourself isn't always the way to be, right? It's like read the room, right? And like you speak differently, to your friends as you do in a boardroom or in a conference room, right? It's like.
But don't you think? I think I'm the opposite. I think that's why I like him so much, because he just has these conversations.
Sure, and that's why people like Donald Trump too, though, is he's just like. He's authentic,
but he's not authentic though. But even
you don't think? I don't think.
No. He is authentically himself.
There is no filter. It's brain to mouth. It's brain to body. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
But he is authentically himself. But he's a fucking dipshit.
Oh yeah.
Like, and there's a difference between somebody being authentic and being intelligent and being a fucking bozo.
Yes, of course there's a difference. But I'm saying that. For some people, it's like, I don't like what he does, but I like the way he said. It's like, that's really the argument is, I don't care really what he's doing. It's that he's just speaking his truth. Like he's just being brash, you know? And that's all it is, Yeah. And I think like, of course, the benevolent dictator is better than, like it's better that when somebody is just themselves. Yeah. If someone was like Trump, but like a good person, like that would be better. But like, I don't know. There's like a different. You got to have. You have to imagine in this country that like the American project is bigger than any one person, and you have to have respect. Like even George Washington, like he had respect for the office that he was the first one in. It's like he felt like he wasn't big enough for the job, And like,
isn't he the reason that it's 2 4-year terms?
Yeah,
he like voluntarily.
Oh yeah, there was no law before that or anything.
Because otherwise, you'd be a king, right?
Yeah,
essentially.
He was like, this is what sets us apart. And I think part of it too is he probably didn't want to do it forever. But like, he was like, what sets us apart is that we're not.
Takes away from his slave fucking time.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not shitting on the guy. That was the time, but it's like it is crazy to me that our founding fathers were not the best. Well, see, that's the thing. It was the time. And so it's like the line always moves, And 50 years from now, there's things that me and you, that we're just swimming in the water, not realizing we're in the ocean,
Right.
Like, that was a stupid. But we're not going to realize. And then, 50 years from now, I'm going to be like, these people were fucking shitty.
Sure. Well, and again, it's like you have to, that's true. And you have to be able to say that without saying it was okay. Because we're not.
Yeah.
It's like, it's only
it doesn't justify anything.
Yeah, right. So it's like you have to kind of speak out both sides of your mouth and be like, it was reprehensible, something we shouldn't condone, something that was immoral, but like somehow understandable. Yeah, it's like kind of weird to say it, but like it's true, because to say the opposite is like amoral thinking. Like there was this kid in my high school who was like, he was so like, honestly, he might be a professor now or something, because he was like very like. He seemed so far ahead of everybody else in thinking, and he was very smart and very quick. A little
He's
odd,
a homeless drug addict now.
I mean, I don't, it could go either way. I don't know. But he was like, there is no morals, right? Nothing is immoral, like because at some point in time, it was normal, and he'd be like, shit like rape, shit like murder, like that. It's not immoral. We just don't like it no more. You know?
Well, and the way I see it is, we don't like it anymore, Alex. No, the way I see it is like the evolution of a bike. You can't, like, there was that fucking goofy ass giant wheel bike, like all the different iterations of the bike. And like, eventually we settled on the current form of a bike now. And it's like, this seems to be the best version that we have right now.
Right.
You couldn't just skip to that. You had to, and so it's like in this point in society, whatever we find is like reprehensible now, it's like, we went through a period of time where we were engaging in these things.
Right.
And after the fact, we realized those are fucking terrible. We can't go back. But for maybe not all the time, you can immediately know that it's the wrong thing. Like, do you think people in the time of slavery, people who owned slaves, I would venture to guess maybe like a lot of people did know that it was not good.
There were people, yeah.
But there were definitely people who were like, yeah, they're inferior. They're my slave. You know, that's just how it is. You know?
Yeah. Well, and here's what I would say that maybe is a little controversial. I don't know. Is that the people the abolitionists were only abolitionists because they weren't a part of the system
that
wholly.
had slaves.
Yeah, it's like, and it's a little bit of like,
damn, they're like, we don't want slaves because we can't have any. It's not fair.
Yeah, well, or just like they weren't indoctrinated. However you want to say it. It's like it wasn't just this like moral righteousness of like, oh, I understand something because I am seeing the truth. It's like almost a different conditioning of like their circumstance didn't really. Yeah, and there's a lot of criticism of like.
Are you saying their circumstance didn't allow for them to have slaves?
Well, in certain ways, but also like. There's this criticism levied against the North, you know, in that time of like, they only didn't want slaves because it made them less competitive with the South, which was true, which might have been true. I don't know. I'm not a historian, but I'm saying is that like, there's still like, and this is the kind of ineffable thing of like, we create morality out of the decisions we make. And no matter what the reason is for that person believing, whether or not they were pro or against slavery or indifferent and went along with anything, like there is still a moral judgment that slavery is immoral.
Yeah.
And we can say that now. Yeah. With like with certainty. Yeah. Did you just say certitude?
I said certainty.
Oh, certainty. Same. Yeah. I don't know. Is certitude even a word?
I don't know.
Whatever. With certainty, we can say. Yeah. We can say that, right? So it's like, so again, like,
I mean, I still have slaves, but
but bringing up that kid in high school, I just remember him being so abrasive. Yeah. And being like it sounds like this whole like moral relativity thing sounds like a defensible argument. Yeah. But you know intuitively it's not true somehow. Yeah. Right? You're just like, no, you're wrong. Yeah. It is not okay to rape and murder people. Yeah. That's just not okay. Yeah. Slavery was not okay, no matter how much we were mistaken at the time.
But do you think there were people that, I mean, there had to have been who were just like, this is how it is, you know, like, of course I have a slave.
Right. And I think those.
But do you think in the back of their mind they truly knew it was wrong?
No, I don't think they thought about it at all. Yeah. Again, it's like, so, and that's what has to give people humility now, because everybody acknowledges that, like, whatever, Thomas Jefferson was one of our founding fathers. We all respect him very much, right? He's very smart, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. And he owned slaves, right? So
he had kids with those slaves.
So he clearly had this like kind of dual aspect where like he did things that were normal but immoral. Yeah. And was also like an admirable person in other ways. So you could be an admirable person now and be participating in immoral structures out of ignorance.
Out of normalcy.
Yeah. So the whole thing is like, just take a step back and question, like, be able to reflect and be like, at least ask the question, is what I'm doing every system I'm part of it, is it moral? Even if I didn't start it. Yeah. Like Thomas Jefferson didn't start slavery. Yeah. But we can all say that the fact he had slaves was bad.
Is he the one who wrote the Declaration?
Yeah.
How the fuck are you going to write all men are created equal and then have slaves? That part, that just doesn't make sense.
It's double think, dude. Yeah. Like it's like straight out of, it's the same mechanism straight out of 1984 of like, people have the ability to think two things if there's nothing connecting the two things in their mind, you know. It's like there's something that made it work. Crazy. You know, and some people say that like that was one of the things of like the intent was always that all people are created equal. Yeah. And that like they knew that it wasn't possible at the time, but they were hoping it would get there, you know. Yeah. And that's the whole like,
but show that through your actions, you know.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And maybe he wasn't strong enough, and maybe he's not admirable for not being able to overcome that, because there were people at the time. I think John Adams was the only president to never own a slave at the time. Huh. And then his son was also president, and he fought for abolition as well. Yeah.
Did Lincoln have slaves?
No.
Was that after slavery?
No, slavery is still going on, but I think
Emancipation Proclamation was his deal, right?
Yeah. He was from Illinois, right? Something like that.
I don't know.
I know he grew up in like the Midwest, I think, and was very sympathetic to the abolitionist cause. Yeah.
All very interesting. What time is it?
We got real political first.
12:41. We got a little bit of time. I don't know what your time is.
I should probably get home or like leave at like 1 or something.
Okay. I did have another topic we can touch on quickly. I was here yesterday working on some music, finished up early with work. And it's like when I was even just 4 or 5 years ago, when I would work on music, I would work on it like consistently, aggressively, passionately, and I would just do it all the time, and it would feel like I was progressing a bit. And now I don't really know how to get obsessed anymore, like in a positive way. Like I don't know how to actively like progress. Whenever I come here and sit down to make music, it feels very stagnant. Like I'm not doing anything. And then last night I was watching some, and back in the few years ago when I was really working on stuff all the time, I was watching a lot of instructional videos and how-tos and learning stuff all the time. And it clicked last night that I think, as of late, I've just been like coming here and like do something. But I think the learning part is like the fuel for like keeping it going and like constantly learning new stuff. Because I was watching some instructional videos last night, and just after watching those videos, I put some together on Ableton. I was like, this is like drastically better than most stuff that I've been putting out lately, and I did it in like 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. And I was like, huh. But yeah, that was just some thoughts I had. I've just been feeling very stagnant lately in terms of my productivity.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely something I've experienced, like as I've gotten older doing creative stuff, is that obviously you have less time, there are more distractions, blah, blah, blah. But I always did feel like as it went on, I felt like I should be doing bigger and bigger projects all the time. Yeah. And that would kind of stop me from doing smaller things, you know? Yeah. Like some of the people I love to follow on social media are people who just like do random sketches, like small little things. And I see so many people, I'm like, oh, like I'm at this level. Why am I not doing more stuff? Yeah. And it's just like this desire, I think, to like work on a bigger project. I don't know. It's like I did some, it's like, oh shit, like the zine I worked on was like such a big, cool thing to do. How can I just go back to drawing or whatever? Or, and like, and then doing this is great. Like this is fun. And like, it feels like a big production and there's a lot of work to do.
There is,
right?
It is, but it's kind of a combination of the two, because it's always a bunch of little things that we need to get done. Yeah. But then it does feel like a bigger-ish project. Yeah.
Which is why I would just, again, like I think I would love to like just once a week, just hang out and work on other stuff. Yeah. And somehow incorporate that into this project.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to do that.
If it's going back to like, retweaking the live stream idea or, I don't know, just bullshitting or working on other stuff.
I think working on something physical would be really, and where we could, bullshit and strategize and plan while we're doing that. Doing the physical stuff, like shit, like cutting that shit out. That is, we could build our own Tesla bot as our guest and have John come in.
I feel like I'd want somebody who's done like some sort of sculpture or robotics or something.
I don't know. I feel like we could, we could get, we could just buy a fucking mannequin and put it in those suits.
A robot. Oh, the Tesla suit. Yeah. I bet they sell those now, huh? Yeah, because he made one for the launch, right? Someone was basically in a Tesla.
They did make a robot one.
Oh, really?
But it was non-functional. It was just like a mannequin essentially. But then, they had a guy in a suit. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I don't like, in terms of just working on things, I think it's again like that habit forming thing. And I think, there's a time when you can just kind of fuck around and do nothing. And there's a time when that feels like it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
And like, as much as I would love now to just be like, I honestly always am like, I wish I was back in my studio apartment, just working in the service job, doing that little bit of design and just drawing. Like that just sounds so fun to me, but it just doesn't feel like it's enough anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, but I also like the zine, like developing it and workshopping it and doing all that stuff, and then having a finished product. That must be so gratifying, right? And having that complete finished thing.
But every song, every clip you make, every sketch I do is like a work in and of itself.
But for me, so it's like in terms of song, I've never, not never. I have some songs that I've got like maybe 3 songs that are fully fleshed out and finished, but they were kind of cheap and they were like easy ones to do. And I actually like them. There's a remix that's I think is really good, and a full song that was a chop that I think is really dope too. But I've never, other than those 2 or 3, I've never like fully fleshed out from scratch my own thing and put together a song and then been able to perform it. I've been working on music for fucking years.
Yeah.
How is it that I'm not at that place yet? You know, that seems so stupid.
Well, honestly,
to me.
and what it is, and I see this with other creators out there all the time, is like, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, be really shitty and do it.
Yeah.
And like, that's how you get better at it. It's like, you're just talking about like building that bot, and I'm like, I feel like I'm good at doing things the 3rd time I do them. Yeah. At minimum, right? It's like obviously gonna get better as it goes along, but it's like, we made this like table, right? Like that's what I was gonna say. And it's not a bad table, but like the next one would be better. Yeah. And the third one would be really like good. On point. Yeah. Like I good. Yeah.
So that's true. And that's the thing I always try to tell myself. It's like I remember sitting down one time to play the piano a couple times, and I'm like getting frustrated, like I'm so bad, this is so stupid, and then my brain's like, you don't know how to play piano. That's why you're bad at it. Like, you fucking idiot. You have to do it more to get good at it. And so I think about that in so many areas, like doing the podcast. Like, of course I didn't feel fucking froze that fucking Catholic charity. Of course that's going to happen. So I think you're right. Just doing something poorly enough times until you get a little bit better.
One thing I have been watching the Cho show with David Cho. That's his name, right? He had, I don't even know the artist he had on. He has a song called Gook. Do you know what I'm talking
about? Kwang Yu?
Maybe, yeah.
It's Bobby Lee's brother.
No, he's like from Florida or something.
Oh, okay, no.
Okay. He's like a rapper from Florida. But he said, he was talking to Cho about like kind of their process at times, and when Cho was younger and he would like live with a bunch of creative people. Yeah. And he called it art trapping. Huh. And he was like, what you do is you like get together with a bunch of people who like are creative as well. You do that all the time. Yeah. And you basically set up an art trap where you just try and like,
that's what I fucking want to do.
No, right.
You
right.
have no idea. That's all I want to do.
And this is something that like, honestly, it still sounds so fun and I've never done. And I would love to do is like basically just create an atmosphere and create a like the experience of living with creative people, doing creative things all the time, and then just like wait for the moment to like spring the trap and like capture it. Yeah. Capture that thing in a bottle.
Oh, I thought you were meaning like in the trap house.
Oh, I think that's kind of part of it too. But the way he was talking about it was like basically like setting up a trap. Yeah. Being like, get the art going, like get it flowing,
and once it
mix it together,
the goods peaks its head.
And once it's there, like fucking trap it.
Wow.
Like,
that is, wow. That's an interesting concept. And that is kind of what I had planned for here, and it just didn't pan out that the space wasn't right for it.
Sure. There needs to be more weird people in Spokane. Because that's the thing, is in Seattle.
Have we looked?
It feels, no, I guess not, but I just
last night I messaged like 5 people on Craigslist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, musicians and stuff. I think in Seattle, they're just around.
They are.
But I think
they work at the restaurant with you. That's that kind of shit. Yeah.
I think they do exist in Spokane. You just have to actively find them.
It's crazy how disconnected community is here. It's like, it's what's been really hard living here, to be honest. It's like everybody's just like,
come on, bro,
please hang out. There's just that. I mean, I don't know. I work with some cool people, but they just like they don't like hang out in person. And part of it was COVID, obviously, but like it was like there's no like.
So you need to give it another year, man. I do think things would have been different if we had like cultivated our own small community of artists, which I still think we can do. Anyway, so here's to future art trapping, and
I love that concept and the way maybe I misunderstood, but I still love that image, the articulation of like you're just like, it's almost as if art is like a beast, you know? A beast, and it just flows through us, and it's just like you got to get it.
Well, go get it, guys. Thanks for watching.